Okay. Okay. So welcome everyone. My name is David Fraser. I'm the host of tonight's little mini event here. I run a company called Bunkie Life that you may or may not have heard of. We are in the business of making log cabins, but we're famous for small bunkies that you can build in a weekend without needing a permit or a second mortgage. Ultimately, we're in the business of helping families create extra space for meaningful connection. And a lot of our clients, like myself, back in 2015, have taken their bunkies and used them as a tool to help create extra income. And that's what tonight's presentation is all about. And so I've got three amazing guests. I'll introduce them just briefly. We have Josh Wood, who is just a really upstart guy. He's got one of the most hottest bunkie Airbnb listings in all of Ontario. We have Maria, who runs a very successful, amazing experience out west and in BC. And so she's got bunkies as part of her ensemble of her crazy awesome village of things that you can rent out. And it's just an amazing thing. And then we have Adrian and Bill, who just bought a bunkie. I think I was helping you look your bunkie was it like September or October? And they decided
it was October, we bought it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was October. They showed up and they got their bunkie and they're crushing it as well. And it's only been a few months. So I thought they'd be good as like the newbie kind of people. So thanks to those four people for helping us out. And without further ado, I thought if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to start chatting with Adrian and Bill to Sidros's. And I know Bill from back in the day because he called me like 4 or 5 years ago about doing foundations for our clients. So me and Bill go way back, and then Adrian finally pulled the trigger on the Airbnb thing. So if you could tell us what your experiences with Airbnb was prior to Bunkie Life.
Oh, well, our first experience has been just actually earlier in the summer. I put up a bell tent in our yard. So we have about an acre of property. It's technically part of Pickering, but it's more north and it's on the green belt. So we're kind of surrounded by fields. So we're technically in nature. In the woods. And so it's a nice property, nice area. We have a pool and we have a hot tub. So, it's actually been suggested several times by other people that this would be good. Our kids don't use any of this stuff anymore. So we kind of maintain it all. And after a while, we're like, we're maintaining all of this. Maybe we should try to get a little money out of it too. So the first thing we did was put up this bell tent and started listing that in August, I guess.
Yeah.
The real challenge was putting up a washroom. So that was the thing that, we had to have going. So put up a washroom, put up a deck and this bell tent and had that going. But of course that doesn't go in the winter. So yeah, we wanted to have something that would, because it was working. We thought, let's see if we can get this going through the winter.
And it's been great.
It's been working. Yeah.
It's the insulation in the roof and then the flooring really helps a lot in the wintertime. This winter, I guess it wasn't so bad, but we had people staying in there when it was minus 20. And we were like wondering if, by the next morning we'd be giving them a discount or something. But, they left a great review and they loved it. And, it's I can't wait for the spring to come.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we'll talk about the seasonality and that sort of thing. I want to share really briefly, if I may, their listing.
Yeah.
So can you guys see this okay? This is the already have 7 5-star reviews. It's only been a few, I guess 2 months, really? 3 months, I guess, technically, since you got it going. And I mean,
it's 3 months, I guess, December, January, 2.5.
2.5.
Now, are you obviously don't share anything you don't want to share, but I'd love to hear how has it been financially? You obviously got the bunkie and got it built November-ish, which is kind of not the ideal time to start a bunkie. Ideally you're starting in the spring and you get the whole summer, which is your real good season, but you guys are just let's go into the cold, let's go into the winter, and you're still crushing it. So, how was the last 3 months?
Well, we've kind of marketed as a cozy cabin, and inside the decor is all just that, it's kind of a rustic, cozy kind of feel in there. So So yeah, people really love it. Like, and we've got, it's like a little winter wonderland, and we have the fire pit out there, which people are using. So we do supply firewood, and yeah, they go out, they have little fires. We have the hot tub as well, and so we have a standing propane heater, as you can see. And so people love that too. They always comment that the hot tub is great, because it's out, as I said, kind of in the fields. There's, as you can see, like, it's all clear, there's no buildings, and it's nice at night, and they sit in the hot tub. So
The animals come out at night and early in the
Yeah.
morning, so you catch coyotes and rabbits. But the really great thing was that we got it late in the season. Like we said, it was like October,
yeah, we
and
got it in October.
we got it up and running in like no time. It was super easy to build. It was
Yeah.
pretty straightforward, and it took. I did most of it by myself, and it took like less than 2 days.
Yeah.
Less than 2 days, and you insulated the roof, you said, quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that's building the actual bunkie. So first we did the floor. We did sort of an extra level. So you'll probably talk later about winterizing and whatnot. But yeah, so we did an extra floor level, and so that we could put insulation in the floor that comes with the bunkie. So we sandwiched it in there.
Yep.
So that took a little like a day or whatever to do, just basically the foundation.
Yeah.
Yep.
A couple of days to build, and then the roof is another
job.
day or so. Yeah,
Okay.
another job. But yeah. So I know you said lots of times that help is good, so I endorse that.
Yeah.
Help is definitely good, but it's doable without help as well.
It's just two of you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, that makes sense. All right, awesome. So, well, I think overall that you'll probably be the people that everyone asks the questions of, because you're in that position where like most people on this call probably are. It's like, oh, is this a good idea? So what would you say to yourself, like the 6 month ago version of yourself is like, should we do this crazy bunkie thing or not? Like, what would you say to yourself?
Well, we always wanted to, and like we wanted to do it right. And so if anybody, I would suggest anybody who's thinking about doing it, go out, visit your shop, get like a real view of what it's like to be inside one. Even go and like spend the night in one, and then you could really see what it's like set up and see if that's something for you, because like you have different sizes, different models. We went in there looking at one model, and we ended up going with a completely different model, right? So it was
I think I talked you out of a big one, didn't I? I was like, no, do the smaller one. I think, right?
Yeah, it just the way that it fit and just accessibility. Just for us, it was just the right fit for us for that thing. But we're actually like, I'm looking at, the villa of condos, and we do, we enter every time at the contest. We're saving our dollars.
Yeah. So like
Bunkie villa is in our plan.
Yeah, we've always wanted to do it for like since 4 years ago, and when we first started talking, like we've been thinking about it since then, and it's we kind of regret holding off so long,
Yeah.
Cool.
It's working.
You want to do it, you get on it, and that's the best advice.
Yeah. So Paula Thompson,
if you got the space, especially if you got the space, the property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paula,
we use the right? The 2019 one level. What is it called?
Yeah, the Bunkie no loft. So that's to answer Paula Thompson's question. That's the 2019 no loft, which is the very first one I ever got into the Bunkie Airbnb game with. This is not going to be about me, but I've done the Airbnb thing as well as the first thing I did. And so, okay. Well, Bill and Adrian, stick around. We got a million questions for you, I'm sure. But I want to kind of shift the spotlight to Josh Wood. One of the is it technically sexiest bunkie on Airbnb in Ontario? What's the actual term, Josh? Like, if you could unmute for us.
It's they say it's just the most wish listed.
Most wish listed. Okay.
Most wish listed listings. So Airbnb basically just takes like, I think they do it like probably once a year or maybe like once every quarter or something. They basically gather what's the most wish listed. So what that means is basically you go onto Airbnb, you scroll through. If it's booked up, you or you want to come back to it, they have like a little heart icon, I think is what it is. You click on that, and then that's like you've wish listed it. And so if you want to go back to it, it's like now it's in a folder of your favorites, or you can get like updates if dates open. So they basically took the top, I think it might be 10 in Ontario, and then they basically said that we were in the top of that. So
yeah. So if we were to summarize that, sexiest Bunkie.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, legit. Okay. So Josh, you guys screen sharing privileges. So share us with your listing. Take us through the process here. If you could, like, pretend like you're Josh Wood. When did you get started? It was last year, right?
Yeah, it was in the spring of 2021, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So take us through like the right before you decided to do this, and then run us through like how do you get to sexiest Bunkie in Ontario?
Yeah, so basically, for a while, I was wanting to build like a cabin. My parents, they have a piece of property in the Kawartha Lakes, and I wanted to basically build something there, and they also did too, for like overflow for their house. And yeah, I was just looking at doing like everything custom, and then eventually I came across that you could purchase kits. And so I came across your guys' website, and I just looked through a bunch of them, and I fell in love with this model here. This is, I guess, the 2020 version.
It's kind of now called the Haven, but yes, it's our biggest and beefiest loft, and
yeah. So I actually used to do student rentals, and I kind of moved out of that in 2020. And then instead of that, I moved more into like the Airbnb side of things, which was like similar but different. I mean, the turnover rate is like we basically, our most average listing or booking, I believe, is like 2 nights. So you're
you
going
take one night bookings though? Do you take a one nighter if they're willing to do it?
Yes, we didn't for a little bit, but then we just said, you know what, why not? Especially for the first year or two, we just wanted to like open up to as many people as possible. And also like some people just want to, they just want to spend one night. Like if you're doing shift work in Toronto or something and you just want to do some spontaneous sleepover, I mean, I was thinking that's what me and my girlfriend would probably be looking for. So we kind of opened up to people for that. And yeah, it was booked solid. We had like 100% booking last summer. And then we had people last summer booking into the next summer. And then it was pretty much booked up. And then we just got tons of that wish listed, I guess. So.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. So you build the Bunkie, and then how do you like take us through the logistics of just getting these amazing photos first and foremost, because your photos are like sexiest Bunkie level quality. But like, how did you get the first couple of bookings going through? Because like, pretend you've never done Airbnb before, and you're thinking, how the heck do I do this? Like, how intuitive was the process, and how quickly did you start actually getting inquiries and stuff?
Yeah, so I actually went to school for film. So I'm like a film guy, and I also do editing and stuff. So I'm like, this was kind of up my alley. I was really like excited about doing all the marketing and taking all the videos and pictures. So I really put a lot of time and effort into like the whole pictures and marketing. I would say that's number one, though. I mean, that's the first thing. People aren't going to click if you don't have good pictures, right? And you're competing against hotels, and they have professional like photographers and stuff. So if you're going to spend money anywhere, it's like spend money on the marketing of it. Get really good pictures, because if you don't have that, they're not even gonna click, right? So get good pictures. We basically. So I did pictures of it myself. It took like, I think it was only about 3 days to build it. And then it took me the whole summer to like do all the interior. I'll go over to the interior here. And
you
then
guys are all seeing Josh's screen, right? Everyone's seeing Josh's screen. Just want to make sure if you comment below, I'm seeing this.
Yeah.
I'm seeing really good photos. There's some young,
Yeah, so
attractive.
I got my sister and her boyfriend to pose and stuff. So we just went out. It's on a lake. That's the other thing too, is having at least one like amenity. I find is like if you look at Airbnbs, it's just have something. Like it can be something that's different. So whether it's a lake, a hot tub. I have another Airbnb where we just have like a hot tub. If you have a pool, if you have a wood-fired sauna, something that is like they can spend a bit of time doing that they will never do at their own house. Or I mean, yeah. So yeah, and even like little touches like the wood stove, just unique things. That's what I was really trying to put in there. And I was just going off of what do I look for in booking or in listings. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I spent the summer building this, doing like a little kitchenette, just making it comfortable for 1 or 2 3-night stays. And then by the time that I was done, I think it was September. It was getting cold. I waited a full year throughout the winter because I think there was a couple things that I wanted to do the next spring, just because I didn't quite get it finished. But I didn't put the listing up until I think it was May, and then within a week we started getting bookings. And then after about a month of having it up, we were like booked solid.
Wow.
Yeah, so here's a bunch of pictures of it, and we have like books, games, lots of board games. Yeah, and then I put in one of the hardest things is figuring out how are people going to go to the bathroom. We just did a composting toilet, and then just like a little those like camper showers. It's like there's basically a little hot water tank, like a propane one in the back. And then I'm just pulling water in from the lake so people can just like rinse off if they get out of the lake. And a composting toilet there. So yeah, it's like it's comfortable enough. Basically what I say and how I market it to guests is that it's not a hotel. It's kind of like a luxury camping experience. People call it glamping. Like I'm just using a portable battery bank to power the whole thing. Takes like no power at all, just LED lights and stuff. We have a little gas stove to heat.
You're electrically off the grid.
We're off the grid in total. Like so we have the electricity is off the grid, but then on top of that, so we do everything with solar. And then on top of that, even our water, we actually bring in the water. So we have like multiple jugs. We give people, I think it's like 12 gallons of water for drinking. And then they have like just a little basin that basically goes into like just another basin. So there's no septic or anything like that.
But you have the composting toilet for any type of, black water, gray water, whatever they call it. And
it's a self-contained unit, so there's no septic or anything that's needed. I believe they call it like a class 1 septic where you don't need a permit for it.
Okay, cool. And so people are asking, Rick Alda's asking, are you booked throughout the winter? What's your season?
Okay, so we thought about doing that. We were going to book it through the winter, and all we were going to do for heating this was just putting in one of those direct vent propane heaters in, because we have a large propane tank at the back. I mean, we're still interested in doing that. We just haven't really gotten around to it, because I did insulate the ceiling, but honestly, mainly that was just to like stop the heat, because when you have like a black metal roof, it does get quite hot. As soon as I put R9.2, it's just 2-inch foam continuous. And then I put just strapping with a metal roof. That was like night and day. Helped out a lot. And then I put the same insulation in the flooring. So in the fall months, you can use that little wood stove and it's fine. I actually stayed in there on New Year's Eve. It was quite cold. Well, it was warm until like, I would say maybe like 1 in the morning. Once the fire dies out, it got a little bit cold. But if we really wanted to, we could put one of those direct vent propane things in, and then I could insulate it more on the outside or inside. I just have to figure out how I'm going to do that.
There's a lot of clients that are like full-time living in their bunkies all year, and those propane heaters are like a godsend. The Martin ones a lot of people are using right now, and not too expensive. That plus a wood stove is like awesome, because the wood stove kind of dries your bunkie out a little bit. It's actually sucking out moisture, but then the propane's actually adding a bit of moisture. It's like a nice a nice little complement to each other. So Charisse was asking, what's the cost on average that you're charging for rent or for fees?
I believe it's 250 per night. And then
You can ask for that when you're the sexiest bunkie in town, right? Like that's good change.
Yeah, I think with Airbnb's cut, it was just below 300, and we picked that price based on what another company is doing. Am I allowed to say another company's name?
Yeah.
It's just like, I think if you've ever heard of Cabinscape.
Oh yeah,
they-
Cabinscape. I love those guys. Those are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They're super cool.
Yeah.
I just went and I stayed in one, and I based my pricing off of what they were doing, because we're kind of giving a pretty similar thing. It's kind of like a glamping experience.
Yeah.
So I just kind of looked around what the market was.
Okay, so and at $250 a night for one full season, how close were you to like paying off your bunkie?
Just the bunkie price or the additives, like all the.
Well, yeah, I guess it's the bunkie to start, and then the full kit. Obviously, there's a lot of caboodle with your kit, but
Yeah,
well,
so just the bunkie would have been like, I think it was like just a few months.
wow. Okay, so basically, payback time on the bunkie was a few months. Wow, that's even better. So I paid mine off in 7 months, I think.
Okay.
So once again, this is not about me, but I have some experience with this. So my first one I built in 2015, and it was also 2019 no loftus like Adrian and Bill's, and I was charging like 60 to 90 bucks a night depending on the night. So this is like pre-COVID time, and yeah, it took me about 7 months to pay it off, but wow, that is awesome.
I just used my calculator there. I cheated, but it was about 2 months. 2 months. And then with all the additive stuff into it to make it like fully livable and comfy and stuff, I think it was about a little over half. I think it's 3/4 of a year is what we worked it out for. So by halfway, since we're only going for half of the year, by halfway through next season, we'll be totally paid off.
Wow. So it's like almost 100% ROI, depending on how you measure it.
Yeah, going from the student rentals to this was definitely the way to go.
I sold all my rentals to get into the bunkie game myself, so I totally know all about that. Okay. Well, there's some great questions. Denise, Stephanie, Steve, Fox, and Joe. We'll circle back to Josh because there's going to be a lot of awesome questions. But I want to first of all, thanks so much, Adrian and Bill and Josh. I'll slide over to the spotlight to Maria for a sec, if that's cool with you guys. And let's
stop
chat. Yeah. Okay, cool. So Maria, still on here? She's kind of popping in and out. Okay, let me ask her to unmute and let's make her the spotlight. So Maria, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I could hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So thanks so much for agreeing to do this. Maria, like you're one of my favorite follows on Instagram. I just get great feelings every time I follow you and look at all the things you're doing. And so if you could tell us a little bit, what's the name of your I don't know what to call it, like
the whole, well, I called it it's a very interesting situation because I have an ongoing established since 2017. I have this log cabin that I rent out year round. It's on my property. I have about 3 acres. So it's at the end of my property, which is close to the forest. And I have that going. And then over COVID got me thinking, it's always, because that's where the view is like phenomenal. And I have the space. So it was just that. So now the question was, what was your question again? To just
I guess what's the name of the business?
Okay, it's called Morningstar, and then Bunkie Land in general, because it's like a little village I've created on my property. And Bunkie Land has the 2 cabins that I have, the 2020 lot with the loft, and I called it Funky Bunkie and Boho Bungalow. My son helped me name that because I wanted to create something kind of funky, fun, eclectic, and it's a glamping type of accommodation. So it's worked out really well.
So do you mind if I share some of the stuff on your Instagram and stuff? Because I don't put you on the spot, but I love
Yes.
and like what I like about it is you've added like a very human dimension to everything that Lisa that you show on Instagram, right? Like I'm just trying to think. Let me share my screen. So this is to follow her, check it out. It's like what's your username? Maria underscore
Maria.
Mestizo's place.
Mestizo's place. Well, that's my yeah, that's my other part that I started with Mestizo's place. Then I added the Morning Star. But yes,
Should I go to Morningstar Log Cabins, or which one should I show everybody?
so you could, or you could go to the Morning Star Log Cabin. I do have a Instagram. It's fairly new. This is the more established one, but you can see more of the.
I didn't even know this one existed. So I'm excited. Okay, let me.
So Morning Star, yeah, that one.
Oh, is it there? It's not coming up for me. Am I typing that in? Morningstar Log Cabins.
Yeah, this one that's my most recent. I just did that reel today because I was we were having some issues last year where we have quite a nice exposure, but then the south wall was really getting the beating from the heat, and so we were just putting extra insulation on yeah, so you can that part there right now. Well, that's the and that's today because it just seems
cool.
like it was like as you say, like
so you guys are you're just outside of, is it Nelson, BC?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what is it nice there right now? It looks like it's like you set up some
like almost spring like feeling today. +5 and beautiful sunshine. So let's see where.
So this is like a front shot, but I wanted to this is a video too. I want to show everybody just the signs and I just love everything you're doing. It just feels so like, I don't know, just like, this is what I want to show everybody. So this is like your signs, like you hand painted these things. Is this true?
Yeah, I did that myself. A lot of the touches that you see, the funky stuff, yes, it's my creation. I actually have this a Wi-Fi password is like happy place, and people's just like, oh, that's perfect. This is like, you go in there, you just feel like, this is my happy place. So that's what I wanted to create, and I'm definitely getting really good feedback on that one.
So tell us, like, so obviously you have a lot of experience prior to getting into the Bunkie side of things. The Bunkie was kind of like for you, like it's like a bolt-on addition to what you were already more or less doing, right? And I guess, so tell us a little bit about that experience that you gathered with the log cabin, and then tell us like how has the Bunkie changed or added to that overall picture?
Well, first of all, I created the Bunkie Land basically was an add-on because I just saw the needs, because Morningstar was just taking off, also very popular. There's definitely a niche there that people just love to be in that wood, cabin-like feel, and to get away from the city and having that totally different experience really was, just like that kind of light bulb. Like I have the Mestizo's place and people like that urban, but it's kind of like just another place in the city. So I wanted to create something more rustic and just a little bit more like like a retreat, like more close to nature. And I think with having that COVID, when we got that lockdown, we still continued to be busy, and people were particularly looking for like self-contained or, preferably more standalone buildings, cabins, where they don't have to connect with anybody. So where we live, like, because also the developing, I'm on granite road, so that means we have a lot of granite underneath the ground, and so developing it is like crazy. So I thought, what can, and I'm just so I have to be careful how I spend my money. So when I saw Bunkie Life, I thought, oh wow, and the cost, and then what potential I could earn, and also utilizing the property I already have. So that kind of really how it evolved. I just like went with my gut feeling. I really didn't do any homework. I just knew that, okay, it's affordable. I know that I would be able to recoup the money. It wasn't like a big, like it's all at once. So developing the property probably was a lot more the cost. And then I wanted to also supply, like, run hot water, running water, so more the convenience of living, the glamping, people. Yeah. Anyway, I just didn't want to do with the the composting toilet and stuff.
That's
So
fair. Yeah. My wife and I have an agreement that she never has to think or touch that in any way. So I totally understand that.
So anyway, that's how it all like evolved, and it's been really well received. I wish I could say I could rent it for 250, but just a night. But no, I average about I started 135, 145. I want to kind of keep it affordable for people, and because we're just starting and there's a lot of competition here as well, and so I'm going for more like, okay, I want people to feel the value of it, and then later on maybe I'll slowly creep up. But right now I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah,
price.
I was always of the mind like, I'd rather have people there than like exclude someone because they can't afford it. So I was always very booked up as well. But I realize now it's probably still undercharging retrospectively because, even like, yeah, the pricing is always like an individual decision, and also depends on, like, sometimes I remember like towards the end of the season I would just raise the price. I'd be like, well, if someone's going to make me get out of bed and like go through the snow and shovel for them, I'm going to charge them for that, and then it kind of take care of itself. So the cool thing about Airbnb, for those of you who haven't hosted before, is like you're in complete control. If you want to book off the Friday and just like go away, just block off the Friday and go away, and no one's going to come. So it's I used to be in the student rental business as well, and it's so much easier. You can just turn it off and then turn it back on whenever you're ready, and it's remarkable that way. So I guess let's pretend like someone was to come up to you and say, hey, like, I'm thinking about doing this. What would you recommend? Like, what would you say to that person, I guess?
Well, first of all, do your homework, because I did do my homework at the beginning, but I was thinking, okay, well, no permits required, and I kind of went along with that, but I did my homework. When I had a contractor help me go through it, we checked our septic because I knew I didn't want the composting toilet. So that and the water were two biggies, because the land is there. And the rock, you can you can do something with it. So that's what we did, is we kind of built it up, and then luckily we did find a spot for septic. Because Morningstar is existing, so we just kind of tap into that. So that part was too big thing, but we didn't originally went for permit right off the bat, and then one of our neighbors, of course, kind of snitched it on us, and we were prepared. We had like a septic engineer to look at it, so I knew I just had to go through the process, and then so thankfully. But yeah, so the thing is, like, we did get an engineer report, because that was one of the requirements. Apparently the snow load is not that Ontario has, is not the same as here, so it didn't meet that whatever standard that they have. So
yeah, and that's one of the things we beefed up with the Haven versus the 2020s, with like the snow loads are like way beefier. So because that was one of the concerns, we didn't realize that until we started shipping to BC. You guys have some intense snow loads in certain areas, right? So that was one of the reasons we beefed it up. So
that's good.
Yeah, because there's all those things that like you don't know until you have an inspector like, well, you need to do this, right? And luckily a lot of that you can do after the fact, right? It wasn't like you had to tear anything down.
No.
Yeah.
And one thing too, and I don't know and I would suggest, I don't know if the doors have changed at all, but that was one of the modifications that we had to do, is to increase the height, because I guess apparently tall people, if they're looking on the floor, they could bonk their head.
Yeah.
So we had to modify it as well. The 6 feet 6 inches, I think, is kind of what we had to do.
Yeah, we made the door taller as well on the.
You did? Okay, good.
Yeah. Based on some of those stories. So yeah.
Yeah. And then when we had to put an egress window, and because it is like people are gonna sleep in it, like it's all about safety. And so that's one thing that we had to also expense it. I had to, just really just, yeah, suck it up and just put the egress window. And these are like just the basic. And then, oh yeah, I know, because I've seen people moving their ladders. So we had to keep it like right dead center, which is like such a pain for space. You know, I mean, we made it work, but it is like they want us to have it like yeah, permanently, you know, screwed down on the floor and have it 2 railings and all that kind of stuff. So and of course I just didn't want, any, I want to be able to sleep at night. So
Yes,
like whatever needed to be done, I had to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally fair. And so that's probably going to be a hot topic, I would think, in terms of things. So first of all, Maria, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. I really, really appreciate it. And I guess what I would like to do now, if you guys are open to it, I'm going to open up the floor for questions and that sort of thing. But I want to pull everyone first. How many people here are like, kind of like Maria? You've got a property, you've already got kind of, or I guess Adrian and Bill too. You've got the property, you have like the back 40 or the back whatever that you think could be already utilized. So you're kind of ready to go. It's just like you already have the property. So how many people are in that camp? Like comment below, like, yeah, we already have the space. And then I'm also curious how many people are like looking into like land or other property, or maybe it's like, more of I would like a cottage away from where I live. Because what I've found is that like Josh, you don't live on site. So I'm curious about how you make that work. And then I would assume Maria and Adrian, you guys are closer. Like Maria, do you live on site or no? Maria, do you live on site?
Yes.
And then Adrian, you live on site. You and Bill live on site as well, right?
We definitely, we live on site, and I can't imagine not living on site. The people ask for things all the time, or not all the time. I shouldn't say that, but just to be on hand. I guess because I'm new, but I do get a little like anxious. It's like, like there's people out there. I'm a little bit on alert, but I'm sure it's gonna get much easier over time.
Yeah. So I guess we'll talk with Josh. We'll pick Josh's brain about. I would assume the answer is probably good systems in place, right, and good help. But yes, I'm just polling the audience. People are saying, I have the land. Tim says I have the land. Paula has the land. Rick, it sounds like Stephanie and Rob say they've got 26 acres and owner operated campground. Okay, cool. So there's a lot of. We could also have a night where we just talk about with resort owners like Summerhill Resorts and a bunch of campgrounds and RV parks are using bunkies to bolt onto their existing campground to like add value to like the back property that they wasn't really utilizing. So Paula's saying she's got a bit of a mountain that needs to be cleared. Jennifer says we have the property and bought a bunkie in the fall, currently setting up the bunkie. Cool. So so I guess what I'd like to do is open up the floor. If you have a question, if you could type it in the chat now, and if you want to direct it to one of our 3 lovely guests or 3 groups of guests, that would be fantastic. And then if you wanted to ask it live, then I'll give you that option. But if you got a question that you want to chat to Josh or Adrian and Bill or Maria, now is your chance. Speak now or forever hold your pieces. Okay, so Odette says, what do you do about insurance coverage and liability concerns for your bunkings? I love that question. Anyone want to handle that? I can tell you what I've done, but
for the actual building itself, it's covered under our home insurance, but anything to do with guests or liability or anything like that is covered by Airbnb. I believe that's my understanding of their insurance, that they cover stuff. They also cover any loss. If you have property, like we had some people that did some damage to a blanket and we couldn't recoup from them, and they actually gave us the money back. So, and it was very easy too.
Yeah, Airbnb's, I think it's $2 million of liability. Like the main thing I think is liability insurance, because I mean, God forbid a bunkie burns down, that's bad, but that's not catastrophically bad. But the bunkie burns down with 10 people inside, that's catastrophically bad if you don't have the right insurance. So Airbnb has liability insurance, and I haven't heard of anyone having to use it so far, knock on wood, but that's a real good plus, and that's a good reason why you don't want to rev around Airbnb. I think in general, I would say the fees you pay are pretty minimal, for what you get in terms of like the calendar's perfect. They take care of all the payments. It goes right in your bank account, and you never get stiffed on the money, and you have a liability insurance. So I'm a big fan of that. And sometimes people are like, well, you give me a deal if I pay you cash. And like, I would only ever do that if it was like someone I knew. And even then I'm always like, yeah. So it looks like Maria or Josh wanted to chime in there too. I'm curious what you guys thought. It's a great question.
Just for the insurance, I have like another Airbnb, and we have an insurance right now for my company that we're trying to do like a blanket insurance. Right now, yeah, the Airbnb insurance is kind of like what we're using. I went and I read through that. I had no clue that they even had that. But when I read through it, I thought, okay, that's actually pretty reasonable. And I've had a few claims. Like I had someone drive into a post, and it was just like a little fence post. But even just with that, Airbnb, they basically covered it and stuff. Like you can have an insurance claim, write one in, and then the guests have the option to repay it. If they don't for some reason, Airbnb will kind of cover that. So yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Stephanie and Rob on that note wanted to know, what kind of fees does Airbnb charge? I'll answer that one. I think it was like $2 for me. It's like $2 to $5 per booking, I think was what I was paying.
For the insurance?
No, just for the fees. Like, so let's say you're charging the customer. So what Airbnb does, just to break this down, and this is like a real overview, is like, let's say the client pays $100. They'll take like 10, $20 of that $100. You'll get 80. And then of that 80, they'll also charge you a fee. So they're taking from the client and from the host. But like I said, the hosting is like pretty minimal. Yeah, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but I remember it was like $3 to $4.
They take 70 from me.
$70?
Yeah.
What?
Oh.
Yeah, so I have
We charge.
my listing price is like 300, and then what I would get would be 233, I think. So it's
okay. So maybe there's a price point where they start really nailing you.
Yeah, probably.
I think what happens is because you can look, so you set your price. So for our price right now is $169 because it's the winter, but it'll probably go up when the pool opens and there's more stuff to do. But so I get like 163 something out of that. But then if you go and look and say, well, this is what your guests pay, I think they pay for our place like $214 or something like that in the end, because it's taxes, and then Airbnb does add like a service fee or something like that. So I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it is like on top of what we even sort of see. So you just have to look and say, oh yes, actually somebody's paying, $215, even though I've only charged $169. So you kind of have to think about that as well when you're doing your pricing.
Yeah. So Josh, when you say that 300 down to 230, you're kind of referring to the client paid 300. Your price was set at 250 roughly, and then chopped it down to 230.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I have to make a correction. So that's the other one. So since it's a seasonal one, I haven't really been focused on the bunkie in the last little while. I think it's actually more like 30 something. And yeah, that's like exactly what you're saying. It's I'm taking the total number and then just subtracting what I end up getting in the end.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, you can think of it. I mean, depends how you think of it. Like I set my price, I set my price at 250. I would make, well, sorry, I never got 250. I set my price at 90 and I got like 81. Woohoo, like that was kind of or 85 sometimes. So that was kind of like how it worked. But they probably paid more than 90. They paid like 110 because they were paying the fee and the charging fee and the over fee that I'm sure they charge. So Lee asks, so you're all, Lee Font asks, you're all 100% occupancy. That's probably not true. It's like, obviously Josh is the sexiest bunkie, but everyone else I'm sure has the occasional vacancy.
Okay, so this is our best month. I guess we opened, I think at the beginning of December actually, for actual bookings, once we got it all furnished and everything. But February so far we've got booked 12 nights out of 28.
Okay.
which for us, we're happy with that. We're happy with that since we've just started, and
During the weather.
it's getting around. Yeah, the weather, and yeah. So
Guys, if
that's-
you're gonna
we're
come-
And we
happy.
took a week off because we took a week off because we went on vacation. So we booked it off for that week, and we went on
Yeah.
our vacation, and then we came back.
Yeah,
Cool.
and
Yeah.
yeah, they are mostly just single nights. We have one person that's a 2-nighter, but otherwise they're all single nights.
Yeah. And you're gonna find, like, in general, that you make 80% of your money from about April till about December.
Yeah.
So if you're able
Yeah.
to do that well in February, you're gonna be crushing it this spring and summer. So Maria, what's your experience? You say you have a lot more competition in your neck of the woods, right?
Yes, and we, yeah, because we're very touristy, but I have been established, and that's kind of one thing that's cool about the Bunkies. But I have overflow from mestizos, and or they wanted like 2 weeks, and I'm booked already. So hey, do you want to have a different kind of experience? So I, shuttle them and shift them to go to the Bunkie Life for a different kind of experience, and they most often than not, like, they actually really like just the varied experience, the urban experience versus the glamping experience. So it's pretty cool that way.
So you kind of have a bit of a flywheel going where, like, your mestizos feeds this and it feeds that, and there's like,
correct. Yeah, it's just like,
yeah. So one thing I started doing is I started establishing, like, almost off-channel relationships with people. So I'd say, if you email me, I'll give you something, or there's a little perk, I'll give you $5 off your next trip. Some way to get them off of Airbnb and into your, like, own email, because hypothetically Airbnb could start going nuts and charging extra fees on top of the fees. Or they could just go crazy, and who knows what will happen, right? Like, you don't own your listing with Airbnb, so it's a good idea
absolutely.
to use them as a good funnel, pay the fees, they're worth it, and then consider at the same time build up a list. So that's probably something that I would emphasize, considering doing once you're kind of going in full swing. Josh, you want to say something, buddy?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that is my strategy too. Is what I've done is I've handed out a liability waiver every time, and I did that because I figured just for like extra security with like the ladder and stuff. And what I do is I get people's like emails, and so I have an email list from every person that has come and rented, and part of that was a strategy to do the exact same thing, was to build an email list to reach out to them. And one thing is that kind of freaked me out is, if you ever do have to cancel with any guests, so they've booked, Airbnb is not on your side in that situation. They
hate you if you cancel on people. Just never do that.
They nail you. Yeah. And so just for an example, one time I end up having, like, I got a booking super last minute. It was like 7:00 at night. And I decided I'm going to run into the rental. I'm going to do like a couple fixes. I wanted to like get a little project done inside there. So I had all my tools out and everything. All of a sudden someone booked last minute. I thought, I have to clean up because they could be coming in the next 10 minutes and they're going to see me standing here. So I tried to call them. They wouldn't pick up their cell phone. So I panicked and I called Airbnb and said, should I cancel? If they come in, I might get a bad review. And this was like back when I was first starting out. And they said, yep, you can cancel. But if you do, we're going to take like 50% of your next booking. We're going to block a week off your calendar where you can't book to anybody. And we're going to knock you down out of your superhost status.
And they murder your dog. They also murder your dog.
So they basically just destroy everything. And that freaked me out. And I said, no, I'm gonna take the risk. If he comes in, I'm just gonna apologize. I'm not gonna cancel. And from then on, I collected everyone's email, because one day if they do go any crazier with stuff like that, like, as if there was like a gas leak, I can't have someone come in. I have to cancel. But then you get absolutely knocked down. So.
Yeah, okay, that's a great point, and yeah, that's one of the like fine detail things about hosting that you kind of learn is like they are pretty good overall on most sides of it. But when it comes to canceling, they just hate any type of cancellations. The other people can cancel anytime they want; it's no big deal. But yeah, as a host, if you cancel, it's very punitive. So Stephanie and Francis, your comment is a little bit ambiguous. Do you want to ask it live? I'm happy to invite you to unmute and ask it live. You talk about winterizing, but it's not very specific. I'm going to unmute you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I just wanted, and you mentioned earlier in the meeting that you would talk about winterizing the cabin, but I'm not sure if that's something on the agenda still. I just wondered, basically what options there are. We're in Ontario, and
We're in Ontario.
we're in Barrie right now, but
Oh, okay. So you guys get your pretty intense snow loads, but it's not that much different than say like where I am in Erin, I wouldn't think, right? Like it's a little bit colder, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But we may find property elsewhere. But anyways, point being, like, we're just wondering for winter, like besides having the fireplace, what would you do for the roof, for the flooring or the walls even?
So I would say like it's a good investment for sure. Do your roof and do your floor as best as you can, because that's a very cheap, relatively low cost and low time investment to do. It also helps in the summer, as Josh mentioned earlier. So there's a couple of videos on Bunkie Life's website to do the roof, and the floor is really simple. The walls, like Adrian and Bill, maybe you guys can testify. You're the ones rocking the winter camping right now. In my experience in Erin, I found once I did the roof well, I didn't really feel like I needed to do anything beyond that other than just rocking the heaters. But everyone's, you got to be really upfront, like, hey guys, you're coming in the winter and it's a bunkie, right? The step from like a winterizable-ish bunkie with the roof and the floor to like a fully winterized bunkie is a bigger step. Just doing the floor and the roof. And it's good for like, I'd say every day of the year, except maybe like that one minus 35 degree day. Especially like this.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, the walls are thick, right? So what is it, like 2 inches thick? And they've got the tongue and groove. So like once you build it up, you definitely do the caulking all around. So any little gaps or anything, you just do the caulking. So it's pretty sealed up. And so yeah, we did our floor, which is just basic, like we basically did an extra just a frame on the bottom, which you kind of have to do anyway. And then we put some plywood, and then we put the actual bunkie frame. And so then we put pink insulation, some plastic, and then put the floor down. So that was, pretty straightforward, but huge difference. And we have a space heater in there. So we just have an electric space heater. For power right now, we have just like a very thick, heavy gauge extension cord that runs from an outdoor outlet from our home. It is pretty straightforward. And we tell the people, it's limited power. If you want to like plug in your computer, you're going to want to turn off the heater and things like that, but they manage and they're fine.
And we also have a heated blanket.
Heated blanket. Exactly. So the heated blanket, and people comment on that. They're like, that makes it work and be cozy at night. And yeah, so our coldest night was, some people had booked and it was looking like -17. So I did give them a heads up. I'm like, it's a cabin and this is what it's got, but it might be, bring extra socks. And they were fine. And they actually put a review and said it was -17 and we were fine. So there you go. The proof is right there. Yeah, it works.
Legit. Yeah.
And our roof as well. I didn't mention, but the roof is also insulated, but yeah, not the walls.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's basically the same Scottish approach I took, like extension cords, heated blanket, like it's totally, straight out of my playbook kind of thing. So love it. And everyone's gonna find their own thing. Like, like Maria, you shut down your bunkies in the dead of winter, I believe, right?
Yeah, and actually when I did my permit, they did put that restriction. So I just had to abide with that. Just so, yeah.
So what is your season?
Well, I think, for this year, I'm going to start June 1st because I've got my son getting married in May. So I just didn't want distraction. So, but I think technically I can open up in May. Until last year, I ended up end of October. It was getting a little nippy, and we did get an early winter, like, it really got cold really fast, and I don't have the heater. So maybe down the road I might consider that, but right now the heaters just work fine. I have little space heaters.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for the question there, Stephanie and Francis. Vanessa asked, has anyone built a bunkie that has a bathroom attached rather than separate outhouse? People have definitely done that. There's this one host, Jennifer, who, if you've ever seen our Facebook page, she's got a gorgeous Airbnb that she's crushing as well. It's like maybe the second sexiest bunkie in Ontario, potentially. And she's kind of got her bathroom, third sexiest. So it's like the bathroom really kind of backs up onto it. And I think she somehow rigged a door together. So that is possible. But a lot of times you see people like, the Haven bunkie with the bathroom bunkie right next to it, or the no loft and the bathroom bunkie. And the reason they do that is because if you have two separate buildings, they're not attached, you can kind of skirt around the permits in a lot of places in Ontario and also sometimes in BC as well. Obviously do your due diligence, as Maria mentioned, but that is one way around that. Whereas if you attach them together, you've enlarged yourself into a footprint that would require a permit. So some people have definitely done that. Some people have like an emergency bucket in the bunkie, and then maybe a more formalized outhouse, or even an actual bathroom. And then, so Vanessa, does that get to your question? Is that, or did you have something further you want? Feel free to unmute if you want, Vanessa.
No, that answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Okay, so the next question I saw was about just what restrictions have you faced with municipalities? Joe Fontes asked, and that's a pretty general question. And so everyone's got their own local bureaucracy and struggle. The struggle is real. So I don't know if anyone wants to actually weigh in on that, because everyone's in different. Like, some people are just doing it under the radar, right? Some people that's what I did. I just did it for 5 years.
Just do it.
What happens in Cherrywood stays in Cherrywood.
There is
That's
Cherrywood.
our code around here.
Yeah.
It's Pickering.
It's like a little hamlet that's just north of Pickering. Sorry, and it's it's on the Greenbelt. So yeah, so it's this little crazy little hamlet. Even people in Pickering are surprised to find it, but it's about 18 houses. We all have about an acre, and yeah, it's cute.
Yeah, there's different levels of
no
Like,
problem.
nobody tells anything. We all do bonfires and hunt and do things at like, so we all have a code.
It's nice to have like
There's
stitches
been no
get
problems
stitches.
But no
neighborhood.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's nice to have like a snitches get stitches kind of agreement with your local neighbors, to be honest. Like,
be good.
My neighbors are awesome.
Be good to your neighbors.
Yeah, that's just true in general of all things. But yeah, no, like there are ways to, like, obviously Maria went through the full 9 yards, and like, a septic system and all the additional things, like, but that's like, that works on Maria's case because she's got like economies of scale with like multiple things going on, and right, she's got a whole bunkie town and a bunkie villa. So if you're just trying to do one and sneak it in, I'm not going to advocate for that strategy. Lawyers, I did not advocate for that strategy, but some people have successfully done it for a number of years. And worst case scenario, the bunkies, you can disassemble them, move them somewhere else or whatever. But if you can, generally it's a good idea to get a good handle with your neighbors. Like, what are my like local neighbor issues going to be? Am I actually going to be a pain in the butt for my neighbors? Because if that's true, it's probably not going to be long-term sustainable, even if you go the permit route. So that would be my first advice. Is that, Joe, is that kind of what you were getting at, or did you want more in depth on that question? Oh, Joe's still with us.
If I could just add, it's when you get into the plumbing side of stuff, that's when permits really start to come in. Electricity is no big deal. It's the plumbing. If you're putting in like septic, if you're pulling water into, there's like a whole bunch of setback rules. And that's when they really want to make sure that you're doing stuff right.
Yeah, so septic, like having composting toilet is probably one, like a self-contained one is a really good.
Yeah, that's the class 1 type of black or brown water, whatever you call it. I mean, that kind of stuff is on boats, right, and RVs, and it's just a holding tank. And yeah, you can basically, if you wanted to, if it wasn't decomposing fast enough or something, like a totally legit way. Like I was on the phone with Sunmar, I think it was. They said you can just throw it into the dump. Like you can take it to the dump. That's like a totally legal and legit way of doing it. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. So that makes sense to me. I hope that's answering the question. Denise Chilton asks, Josh, can you speak to the gray water management? That sounds like you just answered that question, I think, more or less for today's.
Yeah, I mean, so just separate from, because there is that little basin that I have in my bunkie. That's basically just, it looks nicer than what it actually is. It's literally just, if you were like pouring a cup of water into the sink, it just goes into a pipe, and I had it in a bucket for like a while. And then when that fills up, I just take that home when I come after. I actually diverted it into a flower trough thing where I have a bunch of like plants, and then that has like a filter system in it, and then there's a bung on the bottom, and I'll put that into a jug. I'll take that home, and then I'll dump it in my garden, or I'll put it down the sewer drain, because at that point it's just water that's run through food and soap suds. So that's what I do. I mean, it's cumbersome to do that like every time after every stay, but I'm totally off grid, so that's what happens, right?
Yeah, and you got to do what you got to do to be the sexiest, right? Like that's just the way we roll.
Yep, it's a hard life, but
okay, someone's got to be that sexy. Okay, awesome. Okay, that's Martina asked, has anyone used HipCamp? So we were approached by HipCamp last year, and so we did a little blog post for them, and they kind of featured Bunkie Life as well. I haven't personally, because my bunkies have, just, I know this is not about me, but I shut down my Airbnbs during COVID because I was touring people at our house to see the bunkies to buy them, and that was going nuts. So we might open them up. I'm hoping to get my daughter Evie running our Bunkie Airbnbs in probably March or April when we open back up. So I'll be back into it. I'm going to try HipCamp out. Is anyone on our posse used HipCamp, or is Airbnb filling up? Oh, go ahead.
We're on HipCamp as well, because we did actually, as I said before, start with the bell tent. And so we listed that specifically. You can also do the bunkie, but we started with a tent. I found that their system isn't as easy to use as Airbnb. You can't put as good of a description. You can only put 5 photos, which kind of limited. And I only ended up getting 1 booking in the summer through them. And even those people weren't really happy with it because they thought it was something different. I'm like, this is camping. Like, this is what it is. I'm not sure what you're expecting. So yeah, it wasn't a very positive experience at all, like personally. And I was also on a Facebook group of HipCamp hosts.
Yep.
And yeah, they also had some problems and whatnot. So I don't know. I personally wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, I found like
that's my experience, my personal experience.
That's good experience. I found in general, like so back in my day, back in 2015, there was something called Canada Stays, which got merged into VRBO. And I had 2 calendars going, and it was kind of annoying to try to make sure I wasn't double booking and they wasn't synced up properly all the time. And I got, it's similar to HipCamp, I got like 1 or 2 bookings here and there. So I just found by the end, it's just like, just all Airbnb. I'm fine with like the setup there. I know the platform really well. It's very flexible. And so you might find that happens to you as well. Josh and Maria, have you guys ever expanded beyond Airbnb?
No, and it was exactly for that reason of trying to sync up your calendar. Like that would be that I couldn't even imagine doing that, going back and forth. Like, how would you do that? Do you literally just see, oh, this is booked here, I have to rush over to the other calendar and block it off so it doesn't get booked in time? Is that how you do it?
I'm doing that right now. I have a rental here in Florida, but I'm doing that right now. I'm doing the rush back and forth. I think there are other ways to sync up the calendars to the API.
Yeah.
Oh,
there is a way. There's a way to do it.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry to jump in, but there is a way you can sync them all. Like if you have Vrbo, if you have Airbnb, HipCamp, and whatnot, there actually is a way that you can just sync up the calendar so it doesn't happen.
Yeah, you want to
Apparently, I've never done it before. I'm saying theoretically, but yes, I'm told there is a way.
Yeah, Maria, what's your experience with the calendar?
But because I manage a few, I also have a PMS, which is a property management system. So you could have that, and then everything just pulls in, and then it's all like sync up. Because I've had problems too. You know, you can sync up, but there's a little bit of a delay, and then somebody books on the same time, so it may not be blocked. Whereas if you are on a system like a property management system that does all the managing, so as soon as it gets booked on Airbnb, because I'm with Vrbo, Airbnb. I have my own website because I also have a lot of direct bookings, as well as booking.com. And I had actually my experience. Yeah. So I have another experience with booking.com. It's not my, I was getting a lot for Morningstar Log Cabin, but as soon as I added the Bunkie land there, I had a bit of a problem because they don't let me put in the description right there. So people would just see photos. Oh, I love that. And then they just don't look at the fine print. So anyway, so that was my issue with booking.com, with booking my places. So but as far as the calendar goes, there is way of definitely syncing your calendar directly with whatever if you have a calendar online. And I use Logix for my booking system. Okay,
that's really good to know. Obviously it's good to it's good to be aware that every time you switch every time you add a platform, you're adding a level of complexity to your system, right? So it might be worth the risk reward might be worth it, but it might not be. So just I say Airbnb generically to mean short-term rental platform, but there are obviously a lot of different options, and yeah, I think it's good to just go in with your eyes open. Like it might make sense just to start with one and really crush it at whatever that one is, and then grow on that if you feel you need more bookings. But if you're the sexiest bunkie in Ontario, like obviously you don't need more than one platform, right? Okay, so Paul asked, do you have Jennifer's website information so we can see the attached washroom? I will try to find that for you guys if I can. It's on our Facebook page. If you scroll through, we featured her last year at some point on the Bunkie Life Facebook page. And she answers, if you comment on her post, she will answer you probably within 4 to 5 hours. She's like a customer support person that's working unpaid. Okay. Stephanie and Francis asked, isn't the Blush House that David is speaking of the one with the bathroom booking on the side? Yes. The Blush House? Yeah. Stephanie and Rob asked, municipalities all have their own rule about how many rooms can be rented out as an Airbnb. Once you get into municipalities like Bunkie Villages, you're falling under commercial tourism regs, which have seasons like our campground. Right. So, your level of complexity scales as you get more complicated too. So that's why someone like Maria probably has to jump through more hoops, because you've got more than one thing happening, right? Oh, and then, Heather just posted Jennifer's Airbnb, which is awesome. Thank you, Heather. And then Maria's self-guided tour of her place is also available here. You can scroll through that.
Thank you.
Tim Bennett says, how about tying into an existing holding tank, Bunkie plumbing? Thoughts? So my understanding, at least in Ontario, and I believe it's true in BC, as soon as you add plumbing, you're definitely into permit required land. The composting toilet's a bit of a workaround, but there's a gray area between like going in, is plumbing the thing that goes into the septic bed, or is it just, or the holding tank or whatever? Obviously consult with your local guy that actually knows something. Okay, Stephanie and Francis are posting. Oh, Jennifer's Airbnb. Thank you for posting that as well. Rick says there's third-party apps, which Maria mentioned. Okay, so we've been going for about an hour and 10. I always want to be cognizant of everyone's time. I'm happy to stick around and answer more questions, but Josh, Adrian, and Bill and Maria, you guys got to go do something productive with your lives. Feel free. Really, really, I mean, just from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate it. I'm so just impressed with you guys. I'm very impressed with you, and I'm like proud to be a small part of everything you've created. It's really cool to see.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll stick around.
Absolutely.
It's good to be part of the community.
Cool. Yeah, we have a very good crew of peeps. I can say that. I've met most of the people, and they're all awesome. So I guess if anyone has questions, I'll stick around, but don't feel any obligation if you got to go. One thing I will ask, if you could, I'm going to type a little thing. It'd be great to get everyone's feedback. So I charged you $5. This is the first time I ever charged for a meeting. Normally they're free, but I thought let's whittle it down to the people who are willing to put $5 worth of skin in this game. So I'm going to donate that money. I think 50 people times $5, that's $250. I'm going to donate that money on your behalf to Ronald McDonald House tonight. But thank you. Have you got, my goal was 10x your $5 investment. Did you get $50 worth of value in terms of knowledge and experience and just expertise from Josh and Bill and Adrian and Maria? Did you get $50? That's the goal. Okay, so worth every cent. Okay, good. I'm glad you're counting it by the cent, Tim. So if you did get a good amount of expertise and ideally $50 each, I just posted a little link. If you want to give feedback on the live stream, there's a little link here I just posted, and it'll be in an email follow up as well. I'm gonna take this recording, I'm gonna throw it on YouTube, and I'm gonna put it on the Airbnb section of our website just for the next till Saturday night, we'll say, and then I'm gonna take it down. So just for the people who actually showed up and paid the $5. So yeah, if there's any other feedback you guys have, I would love to hear it. And this is the link right here. Boom. And if you have any other questions, you can feel free to email me. And if you have any more that you want to chat through, that's cool. And if anybody has to go, don't feel bad. I totally get it. Steve Fox.
I could also say, if anyone wants to ask me any questions too after the fact, if you just want to send me a message on Instagram or something, I'm happy to answer any questions, because when I was doing all my research, I felt like I was on the outside looking in, and when you have no idea what you're doing, it's really it took a lot of time to figure out how to do anything, and I kind of felt like I knew nothing going in. So happy to help anyone if they have any questions.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the same. I had an experienced person who came and talked to me for half an hour, and it was like thousands of dollars worth of information. She just gave like do's and don'ts and tips, pictures of everything, make sure the reviews, all these things. And it was like, oh, fantastic. So yeah, it's very valuable. And yeah, same with us. We're happy to share our contact information if people have follow-up questions. Or if they want to come stay, check it out for real life, absolutely. We're a cozy cabin in Cherrywood.
And you guys are all are you on the Bunkie Life private Facebook group too?
I don't think I am.
Get on there, guys. Get on
Sure.
there. I'll put that link too.
Yeah.
What is it? Like groups. This is like the weird link. I'm gonna post it to you guys.
All right, great. Because I don't think we're on that either.
Yeah.
Cool. That's the link
We'll
to
check
it.
anyway. Yeah.
All right. Oh, and then people are asking. So actually, Josh and Adrian and Bill and Maria, could you guys copy and paste your actual listing links as well? Because that'd be killer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I have a question for Josh.
Yes.
Oh, go far away, Heather. Yeah.
Josh, you were really helpful when we posted and featured your Bunkie. Thank you. And there were questions about the total cost, and kind of talked a little bit about it, but not. Do you remember we talked about it and you said that, you said the cost of the Bunkie, but then you also said all of the other things that you invested into it. And I thought that was a really good eye opener to, to get a Bunkie to the level that you have. What type of investment was required? Would you be able to share that information?
In total, it was about $55,000 for everything. So that was to add the outhouse. Well, it's not really an outhouse, but the little building out the back that has the composting toilet itself, the little mini shower, the roofing material, installation, all the amenities inside, stove, countertops,
the grill,
shelves. Yep, the grill, really cheap. It's by Gasland, I believe. You can just look it up if you just look up like tiny home anything, like people have everything nowadays. Like they've got all these little mini gas stoves, like mini wood stoves. I used a Blue Eddy miniature camper, like battery bank. You hook it up to solar. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Okay, so I guess this actually was my question for you as well, Josh. Now we got you. So, and Denise echoed it. So she's wondering, if you have experience running it from afar. They live 7 hours from the land they're hoping to build/rent out. Any tips? Because you're not directly on site either, right, Josh? How far away are you from?
No. So I'm not on site, but I'm not that far away. I'm about 25 minutes away. So it's not that big of a deal. The longest I've been away from it I was in Bowmanville. I was about an hour away. And that my first night renting, the guests actually locked themselves out at like 1 a.m. So I had to drive from Bowmanville all the way up there and give them the keys. And from then on, I hid little keys. But after a summer of doing that, like there's really no problems towards the end. Like you kind of figure out all these little backup plans. so nothing can really go wrong. And then the stress just leaves. You don't even really think about it.
Yeah. So Steve was asking if I could share a little bit about mine, and so I'll share a little bit of my experience. So I started with one rental, the same one that Adrian and Bill started with as well, and then it grew to basically a bathroom bunkie, and then two other bunkies that kind of shared a path. So the three bunkies all shared a path to this one bathroom, and then I built another one, but I never really rented it out. COVID hit around that time, and so I had three rentals going, and you learn these little things like hiding the key, for example, things like that. I had a video for each individual bunkie. Like here's where to park. Here's where to go up the steps. Here's where to find your bathroom. You got to look up there and make sure you can see the number one in a glow in the dark thing, and make sure it's number one and it matches what it says. Because otherwise you're going to walk in on somebody else. Right. And those little tricks that you learn just by doing a lot. So I had it by the end of it, people could check in, check out. If they wanted to meet me, that's great. But for the most part, they just want to go do their thing, and they could do that all just by watching the video and just basically immersing themselves in the listing. And you have to kind of double check people because they don't read things, right? So I made them watch the video and then respond to me with an answer of like, did you catch this part of the video? Like a little skill testing question about the video, just to make sure they actually watched it. Like things like that I learned over the years too. So, Adrian and Bill, Maria, Josh, they're great resources, and they're very open to like helping. So, those little tricks and tips, like I wish someone, like back in 2015, not a lot of people were doing this really at all, at least on the bunkie side of things. So like I had to kind of make it up as I went. So I am the same way. If there's anything I can do to help you guys avoid like at 2 a.m, someone walking in on someone else freaking out or whatever, let me help you with that, because there's those little things that you don't think about until they unfortunately happen to you. So nothing catastrophic, but all those little things you can just make it such a great experience right from the start, because you don't have to learn from your own mistakes. You can learn from my mistakes. So yeah, Steve was asking another question. Oh, Lori asked, we have a lockbox for guests, self check-in and a spare lockbox. Yes, totally. That's what you learn after one season, right, Josh?
Yep.
Yeah. Steve says, how far apart are the bunkies so they have some privacy? Yeah, so all my bunkies are separated by like some trees and some different areas, so you can't see each other. But they were close enough where you could walk to each other. So a lot of times after a while, I would get repeat guests that would rent the whole hill for the weekend, and that was really fun. So they could have their own little like kind of private but adjoined. It's like when you rent two hotel rooms and they have the door that joins it together and you can party together. It's like kind of like that vibe.
David, can you talk about the Wi-Fi? The funny
the
part.
Wi-Fi. Oh yeah. So okay, we didn't get into this. Who doesn't have Wi-Fi? You got no Wi-Fi, Josh?
We don't have Wi-Fi, but we're really working on it because people really, really want it. So yeah, like you can't reach from the house, so we're gonna have to devise some way of, I don't know if anybody else knows about technology and how to get Wi-Fi out to Bunkie.
I got a buddy in Oshawa that has a thing. I'll connect you to him. His name's Andrew.
Okay.
Josh, you're gonna say no
That
Wi-Fi.
would be great, because that.
Yeah, the two
people want it,
Airbnbs that I have, we have no Wi-Fi, and no
Wow.
one has said anything really bad. Sometimes, so we've posted multiple times like there's no Wi-Fi, so everyone knows. Occasionally you'll get someone who says, hey, what's the Wi-Fi password? And then we say, oh, sorry, I'm sorry, but there's no Wi-Fi. No one has ever caused like being upset about it. In fact, we have a guest book, which is super awesome. If you put a guest book in, that is the coolest thing. A lot of people will tell you all these like stories and they feel like they're a part of something. Put that in there. But
Yes.
People will write like, I'm happy that we didn't have Wi-Fi. I got to disconnect from the city. So I started marketing as like escape the city, and people seem to like that. So I mean, I'm not that far away from Toronto. I mean, you guys are in Cherrywood. You're not far from Toronto either. So you get a lot of people from Toronto, and I think some people actually kind of enjoy that. So I don't know.
Yeah, that was my target. I live about an hour outside the city too. My target market was like Torontonians wanting to get out of the city, but they always were like, they don't really care about the water. I didn't have any running water. I didn't have any of that, but the Wi-Fi was like a key thing. And I had guests.
I don't care about that.
We have the most rustic washroom. It's so DIY. It's compost, but it's basically like do your own. It's ashes that we use in a bucket, but it's very cute. It's really funky. It has a little seat. Everything's very nice. And again, no one complains. I think they think it's kind of cute and cool and off grid and neat. As long as it's clean, it doesn't smell at all. I always change it so it's always, nice and everything, and it's great and it works out great. It's no plumbing.
And it's like what Josh said, it's about the experience, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are just looking for that one night getaway experience, that last minute kind of book and get away from Toronto or get away from the city, and just no thought into it, really easy to do. And that's what a lot of the people that we're getting is just like,
One tip that this woman did tell me that was really key, and it's on this topic, is that really in your description, it's important to be upfront about what you're offering. Like, don't try to sugarcoat if there's something like that. Like, if you have an off-grid washroom, say it. Like, don't sugarcoat it. I say our washroom is not heated. Don't expect it to be heated. So, that they know what they're expecting. They won't complain if they know what it is. As Josh is saying, like, if they know what they're getting, they're happy. But if they are surprised, then not so happy. Yeah.
That is like exactly what I was going to say. That is took the words right out of my mouth. The first week I had my listing, it said there's no shower in the listing, but people don't read the listing, right? So I had to have in the agreement they signed, no dogs, there's no shower here. I understand, right? People still show up with dogs every once in a while, but at least everyone knew there's no shower. So that's solid. And then Lori, great comment about Starlink. She says that it's a great for rural locations. Sorry, I cut you off, Maria. I apologize.
Oh no, it's just amazing how many people don't read the description, the listings. It's like really, you need to just, I don't know how I've been in the business for so long, but it's just so many out there. I think everyone's so busy. So it's really good. Just even before they come, I think it's personal call. It will be really important, or even just a quick text on the day of their arrival. Please, like, just how to get to our place. And, I trust that you've received the information, like, because a lot of people, they show up and not knowing where to get the key or how to get, what's the passcode and stuff. And you just eliminate all the last minute hassle. If you are proactive, you always have to think 2 steps ahead, because people just are, too busy and not really preparing themselves. There are some people that read ahead and even read the fine print on the contract that we send out, but 90% of the people are just they just show up. So,
I totally agree with that sentiment. I think that, so you would think I have to make it easy for people to do, right? And that's true. But I think what I actually have to do is make it hard for them to screw it up, right? Make it difficult for them to not understand, right? And if you can build the guardrails around that, like that was why the videos were so key for me. Here's the video you have to watch. What color is the roof in your thing? And if I don't hear back that it's red, I'm like, hey, obviously you haven't watched the video. It's really good on that, right? And that for me was so, yeah, I think not easy, hard to mess up. That's for
sure. Yeah. Because then there's also, like, if they mess up, they didn't read, and you've given all the information, then they're not gonna complain about how difficult it was to check in, because the fault is on them.
Yeah. Some, like, the 1 in 10 will still try to somehow blame you, but for the most part, they're like, I didn't read it. And like, I can relate to that guy, because I'm that guy. I just like to show up in life and just like, here I am. Like, I don't, like, tonight I didn't have a real agenda. I hope it wasn't that apparent, but I hopefully it was valuable. And I had fun. I hope you guys had fun as well. So, okay. So I don't want to take everybody's time. We'll do a hard cutoff at 8:30. That's an hour and a half. That's 90 minutes of awesome from Josh and Adrian and Bill and Maria. And once again, thank you so much. If everyone could just, give a digital round of applause. I really think this was awesome. I learned a lot too myself. So
thanks, guys.
Yeah. If there's any unasked questions, let's just shoot me an email. Obviously, Adrian and Bill is sharing their stuff, and Maria's got her Instagram on there. Everybody's sharing their stuff. So just, reach out to them as a resource. That's what we're all about, is sharing in community. So hope it's been valuable. If you got feedback, like I said, where's that feedback link again? It's like, I don't know what the feedback link is, but anyways, I'd love to hear your feedback on it. And yeah, if you're thinking about putting a bunkie into your backyard or Epic Campground or whatever it is, reach out to us. We are working on a financing deal for our business clients, so you wouldn't have to go out of pocket or fully out of pocket on your bunkies. So we're working on that. And, reach out to me personally, david@bunkielife.com, if you want to get a deal or something like that. We're just about booked up for April, but it's still a good time to get started and hit the ground running for spring. So we can make that happen if that's something you want to do, pull a trigger on this year. Without further ado, thank you once again, Heather. Thanks for your help, and good to see everyone. Really appreciate your time. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Bye for now.
you.
Good night.
Night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.